Welcome back, everybody, to a new day, and today we have a new character in the book of Job. It has been a while. I think we could use some fresh blood in the conversation. I guess we'll see how fresh it really is. But we do have a new character. Today is Job 32. We're going to be introduced to a guy named Elihu. But first of all, you can download our free PDF on our website at tobelikechrist.com if you would like. And let's talk about the sections of the book, at least the first two. We're almost out of the second one. Job chapter 1 and 2, Job is persecuted by Satan, and we kind of figure out why all this stuff goes down, why all these bad things happen to Job. But Job and his friends don't know about that. So in chapters 3 through 37, they're discussing the reasons for his suffering. We get kind of the inside info. While Job is the main character of the book, the main character for chapters basically 32 through 37 is going to be this new guy named Elihu. Elihu had evidently been listening to the conversation between Job and his friends for quite some time, but he speaks and he shares his opinions in Job chapter 32 for the first time. He is evidently the youngest of the group. He is the father of Barachel the Buzite. What a coincidence. My father's name is Barachel. Now let's gander over to page number 2 to our 22 verses in this chapter and break them down. Let's talk about what's going on here. I've entitled this section, Elihu Speaks for the First Time. We mentioned that the conversation was kind of winding down, and Job concludes his remarks in chapter 31. His three friends, they don't have anything else to say. The reason they don't have anything else to say is partially because they decided that Job was just, quote, righteous in his own eyes. They're like, anything we say beyond what we've said, it's not going to get through to him. He's thick-headed. That's what Job's friends were thinking. At this point, this new figure steps in, Elihu, who was evidently younger than the other four men. Elihu, as we had mentioned, had been listening to the conversation previous to this, but he tells us why he hadn't spoken up. He hadn't spoken up because he wanted to respect his elders and let them speak first, seeing if they had any wisdom to offer, and I think that's an admirable quality of Elihu's. Now that his elders had finished speaking, he sees his opportunity, and his thoughts are going to span the next couple chapters. So, what was his position? Is he on Job's side? Is he on the friend side? Well, he's not really on anyone's side. He begins by saying that he's mad at Job. He's mad at Job because it felt to him that Job was more interested in upholding and convincing everyone of his own righteousness rather than God's righteousness. And he's also mad at Job's friends because he feels like they had failed to handle the interaction in a way that was satisfactory, at least to him. They had accused Job, but they had been unable to make a compelling case against him. Elihu, although admitting that he was the younger, he thinks here that he has something to offer. And as he says, wisdom doesn't just exclusively belong to those who are old. Sometimes it can be found in younger people as well. We'll talk about that in our application. He felt compelled to speak now that Job's friends had given up. He said this, quote, "For I am full of words. The spirit within me constrains me. Behold, my belly is like wine that has no vent, like new wineskins ready to burst. I must speak that I may find relief. I must open my lips and answer." So back in the olden days, they used to put new wine into wineskins, which are like animal skins. And wine, as it ferments, as I understand it, it expands. Right? And he says, I'm like a wineskin that's full of this new wine. It's expanding and expanding and expanding, and there's no vent. There's no way to let the pressure out, and so I'm going to explode if I don't speak up and say what's on my mind. So that's where chapter 32 ends. Chapter 32 is essentially Elihu announcing that he's about to say something and telling the men why he hadn't spoken previous to this. So kind of like a preface to the speech that he's going to give. Elihu wasn't lying when he said that he was full of words, because he is preparing actually to launch into the longest uninterrupted speech in the entire book of Job, chapters 33 through 37. So that's what we will begin tackling tomorrow and see if Elihu really has wisdom that the other ones have missed. Let's go down to our application now. We will have to wait to see just how wise Elihu was, but I think there is something in his actions that we can observe wisdom in. Elihu recognized the general rule that older people often have greater wisdom than younger people. He wasn't hasty to speak, and that requires a great deal of self-discipline. He waited to see what his elders had to say first, and that takes maturity. But you notice that Elihu also recognized something else, and that was that there were exceptions to that general rule. Older people don't have a monopoly on wisdom, and being old doesn't necessarily make you wise. There are times when younger people have something to offer, and he felt like he had something to offer. Elihu's behavior offers applicable lessons to both young and old alike, I think. So for younger people should recognize that it is generally wise to listen to your elders and give their words weight. Older people should recognize that there will be times when they have something to learn from a younger person. A lot of times we swing to the extremes, right? The younger people are like, those old people, I don't have anything to learn from them. They're out of touch with reality. And then the older people sometimes say, well, those younger people, complain about the younger generations. Like, they're all lazy sluggards and they don't work as hard as us and they don't have our perspective and they don't do things the way that we do things. So it's like they're useless to me. I think the Proverbs that we just went through, and also like the writings of Paul to Timothy in the New Testament, show us that there's wisdom in old age, but there can also be wisdom in younger people. So that's our study for today. That's chapter 32, and we will get into Elihu's speech in the next chapter, Lord willing, tomorrow, chapter 33.